Hello and welcome to the program. My name is Luke Hunt and this is another podcast for the Diplomat. And with me today is David Gum Awng, who is the Deputy Minister for International Cooperation with the National Unity Government in Myanmar. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you for having me.
It's been a very difficult couple of years. How would you summarise where the NUG is right now as opposed to 2.5 years ago when the junta staged the coup and took control of Myanmar?
Oh, thank you, Luke. It's the past 2 years have been tumultuous, needless to say, and also it's even more difficult for civilians inside Myanmar as the junta, goes on to oppress and kill civilians, disproportionately, and there's no, civic space is shrinking. There's no human rights. There's no rule of law, and there's inflation, etc. So life in Myanmar has been difficult for most civilians, if not all. For the NUG, I think we have come we've come a long way. We started in April in 2021. And look how far we've come in terms of, where we are on the international stage, in terms of the diplomatic engagement and also, support that we received from countries all over, and also, people, citizens, they continue to stand with and for democracy and human rights, and alongside the NUG in the struggle for democracy.
Right. I sat in on a press conference yesterday with the NUG and the numbers are quite staggering. I think they were saying that up until about January this year, the death toll was around 2,500. But since then, something like 4,000 people have been killed by the junta. Indiscriminate airstrikes, the fighting. The bloodshed seems to be getting far worse.
Absolutely correct. There are organizations such as AAPP that keep track of the casualties and the detainees, political prisoners that are unjustly and really oppressed and like being jailed by the junta. So I think these are just some of the numbers and figures that we that are on the list, but there could be many more that are unaccounted for.
Right, one would think they might be an underestimate.
Well, I mean, there's always room for people, and also enforced disappearance and just normal people that go about their day, but became victims of interrogation and also eventual and they succumb to lots of these brutal treatment by the military, whether that be in a setting of interrogation center or
Okay. The NUG, 135 ethnic groups. There's the EROs, the ethnic revolutionary organisations. There's a range of different militias. Give us a breakdown on the NUG. How many groups are in there fighting for the NUG, and how difficult is it to have them coordinate as a fighting unit?
Well, first of all, I mean, NUG is the at the forefront of the resistance movement, comprising many different stakeholders, such as the elected members that were ousted in the attempted coup. So the members of the National League for Democracy, those MPs that won in the 2020 election. So they have the mandate from that, and also ethnic armed groups such as KIO, and then we have Karenni, and then we have Karen, and we have the Chin. So these are the major EROs that really work very closely with the politicians and NLD members.
I asked that because one of the complaints I'm hearing from inside Myanmar is it's difficult for the NUG to find a coherent voice, and it's also different, and it's also difficult in terms of bringing about a coherent, unified central command structure to do the fighting. Is that the way the NUG sees it, or how do you? What are the problems? I mean, is it a lack of money? Is it a lack of cohesion among the groups themselves? Is it the differences between the ethnic groups? Are people fighting for a different outcome?
I wouldn't say there's a lack of coherence, but it's obviously it comes with its own challenges. Working with different groups and also people with that come from different backgrounds. For all of them to come together and work for the same political objectives. I think there will be many challenges involved, that's for sure. But in terms of I think what you're talking about, the central command, when it comes to the military affairs, or when it comes to just the the bureaucracy, or getting decisions made, or just coming to a consensus, I think there will be a lot more discussions and people trying to sort out differences. But that's just that was what we all have to go through, because this is a process. So there will be a lot of sometimes there will be not really arguments, but like contentious debates. But always we are bounded by we're all in this together. So we have this sort of like the ultimate goal. So that's what really binds us all together. So there are differences, of course, but what's even more important than our individual or needs or desires maybe, but we really try to work it out,
right,
in a way.
How important is Aung San Suu Kyi to this struggle? Her name is not what it once was. It was sullied dreadfully by the Rohingya. Nevertheless, the NLD, her party, did win power at the last election, and they were ousted. But how important is she? And with much respect, she's also getting older, and we've seen this around the region where there always seems to be a lack of enthusiasm when it comes to promoting young people in political parties. And you're late 20s, early 30s, perhaps you're relatively young, you're the up-and-coming generation. How do you feel about the older generation and people like Aung San Suu Kyi?
Right. First of all, I mean, Aung San Suu Kyi, she is still the figurehead of the National Unity Government. There, also, I think she is immensely popular at home. So she still enjoys a lot of support, and not in terms of politics, but also she just she still continues to be seen and revered as this like mother of the Mother Sue. It's the endearment like people associate with her. So that's how powerful she still remains and that really I think in a way I think she's still this sort of driving force for democracy, because a lot of people associate Aung San Suu Kyi with this struggle and movement for democracy. She's seen as this icon of democracy, although her reputation was more or less tarnished because of the what happened with our Rohingya population, the genocide in Rakhine. But regardless, I think she still holds significant power and authority, and in Burmese we call this Oza, Itima. And because of that reason, I think Aung San Suu Kyi and also some of the senior leaders of her political party are also critical components to this resistance movement. That doesn't mean that the efforts and the leadership and bravery shown by the younger folks, younger generation, the Gen Z, the younger millennials, are to be dismissed. Of course not, because their contribution to this resistance movement it's even more pronounced, and it's being celebrated not just domestically, but also by the international community as the younger people emerge as this sort of group force that is at the very forefront of this Spring Revolution. There are Gen Zs. I think more than 75% are that are fighting in the PDFs in the liberated areas, and that are also in the urban guerrilla warfare. They're mostly young people, So those are really the ones that really making a change and really having their lives on the line. So in a way, it has to be this sort of mutual respect and more coordination and understanding between the different generations. But like I said, this revolution really transcends all the demographic lines, ethnic lines, and also geographic and demographic lines. So it's all about bringing about this unity that that we've never seen before. It's on a very unprecedented scale, in a way.
In regards to the People Defence Force, the PDF, the armed wing of the NUG, how many people do you have under arms now?
I don't have the exact numbers, figures. I think people at the MOD that you'll have to speak to.
Yeah, I think it was last I saw it was about 250,000.
Maybe more than that.
Right.
Yes.
It's a lot of people.
Yes, a lot of people. And the projection is that the PDFs that are under the command of the MOD will continue to grow significantly. So that's a projection, and there are some people that think it might be a threat because they have a different vision or different objective to how things should be done. Because
this goes back to the ethnic armies.
But for different reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, what have been the worst moments for the NUG and yourself?
Okay, so this is quite a difficult question for me. Really makes me to reflect upon. So I think the worst moment for the NUG. I think whenever there was a massacre that entails lots of people being killed, by jet fighters.
Sure, there were several earlier this year across from Mae Sot.
Yes, Mae Sot. There landslides, and there are also just innocent people randomly targeted for their political beliefs and things of that sort. But I think Baziji incident, and also in the one in Phuket, in Kachin State, Anamba. So these sort of massacres really shook everyone, to their core.
They're very calculated, if I remember correctly. They were calculated.
It was.
In the way people were taken,
right,
held in pagodas,
right,
alongside Buddhist monks.
Yes.
Shot at close range.
Yes. It's horrendous, right? It's
And then there were the children, if I remember correctly again, that they returned, and children being children ran ahead of their parents, and when they saw the dead bodies, they were killed by sniper fire. Right.
So it was really well calculated. It was not not an accident. It was intentional. It was very brutal. It was inhumane. I'm at a loss for words, but things like that really, I think, on a very human level, it really, I think, it destroyed you. So I think those instances like that would be the darkest sort of moments for all of us, not just for the NUG, but for the Myanmar people.
And these are being referred to the ICC for as war crimes, and crimes against humanity.
Indeed.
Okay, you're receiving a lot of support from around the world. It is patchy, and there are issues with old favourites, China, Russia. How do you think ASEAN has fared this year under Indonesia? I ask that because Brunei was the chair of ASEAN as the coup unfolded, and was sharply criticised for not doing enough. Cambodia then took over the chair, and there was a lot of pretense about doing things when really not much happened at all. In fact, I remember General Aung San Suu Kyi referring to the then Prime Minister Hun Sen as his brother. But under the stewardship of Indonesia, ASEAN does seem to be taking a much harsher stand. Whether they can actually do a lot is another question. But how pleased or unpleased are you with ASEAN at the moment?
Well, the National Unity Government really relies on the support, solidarity from our, neighbors, closest neighbors, including Thailand, China, India. They're not part of ASEAN, but
Sure.
They're really important to us in achieving the democracy and the shared political aspirations that we have, that we're all fighting for. So, with regards to the ASEAN and also the leadership of Indonesia, so I think there's always room for improvement, and that there's always things that could be that there are always more things that could be done to be worked for. So as naturally there have been things and instances where we would go and say, oh yeah, maybe this shouldn't have happened, or maybe they shouldn't have been invited, or maybe this could have turned out differently. There are things like that make us say, okay, we could have been a different outcome.
Right.
Could have been.
You're referring to ASEAN summits and the
Exactly.
statements that are issued afterwards,
Right.
and what's not being done,
Right.
which immediately comes to mind is the humanitarian aid and
Exactly.
opening up corridors and
Yes.
safe havens for people.
Right. So there will always be, we would like our neighbors and also, partners, counterparts from ASEAN to even take a tougher stance when it comes to, standing up against the junta, because they really need to hear these, because the junta, the only language they understand is force.
Right.
And as long as ASEAN really, it's most of ASEAN member states are cozying up to the junta in Naypyidaw, I think Myanmar will just see them as very not formidable enough for him to even take them seriously. So that's my perception.
It's an interesting take. I've covered ASEAN for decades, and it was just before the Foreign Ministers Summit last year, and Hun Sen had asked Lang not to execute the pro-democracy advocates. And I really believe that the foreign ministers all assembled there, including from Australia, Anthony Blinken from the US turned up, and Wang Yi from China, and they were genuinely shocked when they actually did it. Hun Sen asked them not to. Personal favour to my brother.
Yes.
And they went ahead with that. And that really did shake them, I think.
Yes.
What was your take at the time?
Oh, I mean that's quite a blow to all of us, and it was really uncalled for, and it was I think they went too far. And you're right about Hun Sen sort of trying to intervene and calling on his brother, quote unquote brother, to really come on to try to kick some sense into his head, but that was really a futile sort of endeavor, right? Because the junta still went ahead and executed our brothers. Right. So that was a very it was shocking, honestly. But that also tells you how out of touch they are, and also they are prepared to go all the way to maintaining their grip on power to on Myanmar, and there's no turning back for them. And I think that also shows you how rigid and also how full they are. They sort of tend to live in their own bubbles and not really listening to anybody, even their closest allies. So it's also they're very delusional, and they think they could do whatever and just get away with it, but which is not the case this time around. And I really hope they will. I believe and also we're doing everything we can in our power to bring justice to these victims who are unjustly executed, and also extrajudicial killings really that the military has been committing.
Steering back towards the military, the conflict, with a couple of 100,000 under arms, my sources inside Myanmar are telling me, independently of other reports, which they all concur, that the NUG and the PDFs are doing quite well in terms of taking the fight to the military, in that they have pushed it from the jungles to the villages and then to the outskirts of provincial towns in Myanmar. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, on the military strategy, and how successful is it at the moment?
Well, okay. I'm not well versed on military, strategies and whatnot. But it also, this is really not my jurisdiction. But as far as I'm concerned, I think MOD has been incredible at the way they, they have been able to set up the command structure and coordinating with different EROs and really trying to gain more grounds, more territories, and also keeping them right. So it's not just about being able to pull off an offensive, but also having a strong defensive and maintaining that territorial control. So it has been, I think MOD has done a great job, decent job. So, but in terms of this strategy and how they really work with, the fighting forces on the ground, I'm not, I don't.
Right.
Yeah, have all the
okay.
comprehensive knowledge.
One of the reasons why I asked is there was another report out, led to calls within the UN, basically that the military can only claim to control about, I think, 17% of the country, thereabouts, that the NUG PDFs are in charge of perhaps 30%, and the rest is disputed. And it was based on those rough figures that people in the UN, among others, saying that Myanmar should be declared a failed state. Do you think that's fair? Do you think Myanmar should be declared a failed state?
Honestly, it's not for me to. Well, I mean, I honestly, I think what sort of advantages are coming out of this, right? This declaration that Myanmar is a failed state. But I think when you look at it, like when you look at the situation on the ground and also how things are, what's happening in Myanmar, I think every indicator that you can use, I think it's showing that the country it's really on the verge of collapse. The economy it's really not doing okay.
Well, it's impossible to maintain.
And people are hardly surviving because there's crazy inflation and basic commodities are becoming so scarce, and people are not able, they can't afford to buy them, and there's also they're constantly under threat, and there's no resemblance of peace.
Sure.
So they're always constantly worrying about what's going to happen next. So that sort of insecurity also feeds into the business sector.
Absolutely,
investment. There's no sane investors are going to come in and have this sort of thriving booming industry. That's just the reality of the country. Also, financial institutions are being hit by the sanctions. So that just paints a very grim picture for the country. So if that's,
I think if it was declared a failed state, there's sort of certain parameters it has to hit. Again, it would get political and with the United Nations, but if it was declared a failed state, it would make it easier for the rest of the world to act. I.e., this is a failed state. There are potential corridors that can be opened up from Thailand into Myanmar, which could provide aid. Military support's another issue. But how far away is Myanmar from that point?
So I think there will be different views that people might have and also bring to the table, because they maybe reality is different for everybody, right? Because I'm current, for somebody who is just going about their day in a sort of bustling street in Yangon, just uh, from a middle class social class, maybe life is normal for them. They wouldn't see us as they wouldn't experience this as
Kids still
going
go to
through a
school,
failed
you have
state.
electricity, you
Exactly,
can afford
because they're
buy
still
some
fortunate
basics,
and they're
right.
still privileged enough to enjoy these privileges, despite the rest of society succumbing to poverty. And I think more than 50% of the entire population is now under poverty lines. That's according to the UN and whatnot. So that really it's the reality for the majority of the people. But still, there are pockets of population that would still see it as okay, we're doing still okay, and maybe that's a different reality for them, and they will see us differently than we do.
Right.
So, but me, personal opinion, is that if being declared a failed state will bring about or bring in more aid and open up more opportunities for other countries to act on, I think why not? And it's or if it helps our revolution, the resistance movement to really gain more momentum and more strength, I'm all for it. But this is my personal opinion.
Sure.
It does not represent the voice of the NUG as a whole.
But what would you like to see the rest of the world do over the next 12 months? What would you like to see ASEAN, Thailand, India,
Yes.
China?
Yes.
China's a bit of a stretch, but what would
Yes.
you like to see the rest of the world do?
The rest of the world, we've been saying this ad nauseum to our allies, democratic forces in the West, and also our neighbors in Southeast Asia and East Asia. Practically any country, and from all the countries in the world, our message has been consistent and clear. We need more. We need their support, and that support has to translate into something tangible, and also that could also be the political support recognition from our closest allies, the U.S., EU, and Australia, and our
Canada, East Timor
East Timor has been awesome, amazing. They have been, I think, their solidarity has had an immense, an incredible impact on the resistance, and the junta is not taking it lightly. I think they have just expelled the.
They have, yes.
So I mean,
they've recently expelled a diplomat.
Yes. So, our message to what we would like the international community to do more of is we need more sanctions, not just from. We need, when it comes to sanctions, I think these sanctions have to be more coordinated, more strategic, and more thought through. So it's not like coming from separate sort of states, but also as a like concerted effort,
including financial sanctions from within ASEAN. You've had Singapore,
yes.
Banks have been caught doing
Yes.
deals with the junta. The government
Yes.
says, "Oh, we didn't know." However,
yeah. So also, global arms embargo, I think it's been on the list, but then it's not.
Also, the materials list that can be
Right.
used to make arms out
Exactly.
of. That sort of,
So these spare parts,
Yep.
dual use technology. So these are really things that really enable the junta to still be operational and carry on their military operations like aerial strikes against unarmed civilians. So those also identify entities that are closely connected to the military and impose sanctions on them, targeted sanctions I'm talking about, and also jet fuel. It's controversial, but I think jet fuel is also something that the US and EU have to take a tougher stance on and
Right.
be more aggressive about imposing sanctions on these companies and individuals that are importing fuel to that they then supply to the military.
Right.
And obviously, there are things like Burma Act in the U.S. So I think we're at a point where I think we're still working with the authorities and people that are closely working on the Burma Act and the appropriation committee.
Right. This is in the United States.
In the United States. So to really expedite the process. So the sooner the aid really gets to the ground, I think that will really help speed up the revolution as well. So everything that we do, every decision that a senator makes, I think every correspondence matters. So there are things like that the individual member state can do in the context of the EU and also the US and Australia to be more. I think they also have to come together and really, I think, set a good example. I think the ASEAN sometimes. I think my message is that the West, especially the US, should not take a back seat when it comes to confronting some of the difficult questions.
This is one of the issues in that ASEAN has positioned itself as this centrist power structure within Southeast Asia and East Asia and the Indo-Pacific now, in that you deal with ASEAN if you've got a problem in the region. Right. And ASEAN has not lived up to the expectations when it comes to Myanmar. Indonesia has tried, and there's a lot of logistical realities in doing this. And at the same time, I've heard complaints out of Washington from one US congressman comes to mind that the problem with dealing with the NGG is you're never quite sure who you're dealing with because there are so many different around people to deal with around that. How long do you think it will take to get this together? It's kind of the NUG, the relationships, the PDFs, you work in the international arena with the NUG. How soon would you like this kind of structure to get rolling?
As soon as possible, right? Because like I said, I think the international community also, I think they're also doing their own analysis, right? Because they're dealing with this entity, right, the NUG, okay, and then I think for them also, I think we the NUG need to also show them concrete evidence, right, that we are capable of governing, and that we have the capacity to actually, implement some of the changes, that we're pushing for. Right. But then, yes.
And just as note on what I was mentioning before, and that the NUG is capable of acting without ASEAN.
Oh no, that's not what I'm trying to get at. But ASEAN is still, it's critical in finding a solution to this conflict, because ASEAN should and must continue to be one of the major stakeholders, because they have a lot, they have high stakes in this political crisis in Myanmar, because really, whatever comes out of Myanmar, it really affects, all ASEAN, because this is a regional bloc. But yes, ASEAN, I think it's they should. We're definitely asking for more support and more sort of overt, concrete, sort of support coming from the ASEAN, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and the Philippines, and East Timor, although it's not.
Sure. Almost there.
Yeah, almost.
On that note, David Gum Awng, thank you very much. It's been a delight.
Thank you, Luke, for having me.
Cheers.